All right, I'd like to call to order a meeting for Columbia Heights Public Schools Independent School District 13, Columbia Heights, Minnesota. It's Tuesday, August 28th, 2018. It's a special call meeting of the Board of Education. I'd like to everybody to please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Hall, if you would, roll call, please.
Mueller? Here. Severson? Here. Larkin?
Here.
Lewis?
Here.
Samurai? Here. Palmer?
Here.
And Superintendent Kelly?
Here.
Thank you, Hall. Next up would be our mission statement. Columbia Heights Public Schools create worlds of opportunity for every learner in partnership with supportive small-town communities by challenging all to discover their talents, unleash their potential, and develop tools for lifelong success. Our core values are community, excellence, collaboration, integrity, respect, courage, and innovation. First up would be the discussion reports of information. That's the Metro XU information. Looks like, you want to start? Lorien, who?
Yeah, this is really Lorien, member Mueller and Zena and myself
Okay.
on this one. Do you want to kick it off, or do you want us to do something?
Well, I can just give an intro. So I'm the representative to Metro XU for the board, and I received this email on the 13th of August asking for representative members to vote and to send via paper ballot back either agreement or disagreement with essentially a partnership between Metro XU and the Joint Powers Alliance. Sourcewell, it's ties. So Metro XU has been approached to be part of the governing board of the new reformatted ties organization.
And so she was kind enough to send it along to me because I didn't get it. And the two of us really had a conversation, and it felt a little murky to us, so we sent it along to Joe Langle. You know Joe with Roderick. And he reviewed everything, and he's weighed in on all of this. But I talked to Zena, I thought, so that we know what we've done in the past and what this might look like. Zena, we have a little PowerPoint to go through, if that's all right with you all. So,
Chair Larkin, members of the board, Superintendent Kelly. As stated, we are here to discuss the Metro XO membership and the modifications to it. Of course, Columbia Heights Public Schools creates worlds of opportunity for every learner, and we focus on our core values this evening of excellence and collaboration. So just a brief overview of the Metro XU. It's a cooperative service unit, and it helps schools to deliver high-quality services and reduce costs through this type of collaboration. As you can see, it's been around for decades. Some of the services for educators that they offer are professional development, support for special education, Parapro, the Praxis test, which is for our paraprofessionals, programs for students, cooperative purchasing, and environmental health and safety support. Last year, Columbia Heights, here you can see our participation rate in the Metro XU programming. So 13 participated in professional development, 25 students in the Knowledge Bowl. We did not have any educational assistants needing the services through the Parapro test last year. 6 behavioral interventions, 9 special education. We did the annual class size study in cooperative purchasing. Looking forward to 2018-19, what would be proposed? In speaking with the principals and the superintendent, there was a proposal to not participate in the Metropolitan Principals Academy. The principals really felt that they could seek high-quality professional development on a time frame and a timeline that would be offered that would meet their needs, and other types of professional development that meet their needs as well. Parapro, that comes up as needed each year, but then continuing to participate in the other pieces. One additional item looking forward to 2018-19 this school year is we do have the 21st Century Community Learning Grant, so our Encore program, and that's got a heavy focus on grades 5 through 12, which means we have additional opportunities for the high school students, such as future problem solvers, Envirothon, and some of those types of Sparkly aquaponics and additional academic pieces that they can do outside of the school day.
Linda, before you go forward on that one, in talking to the HR department that Praxis, we don't send people go to a site, so they could still go to EXU if they wanted to, because it's a regional site. So even though we use it, as an example, they could go other places too. And we get a lot of our special education, professional development, and can access that through 916. And then I really talked about the cooperative purchasing today with people, and most of our cooperative purchasing is not with EXU. We couldn't find anybody that was really purchasing much. We use more the Southwest Co-op and things like that. So we're not big users of that. We have been in the past, as Zena said, used the Principals Academy, but found that we just really, the principals did not have the time to do it when it was actually available. So even though we still have that plan for that participation in 18-19, it remains to be seen how much of that we would use. Go ahead.
So this was presented to the board in June. The cost, it's a flat rate of $700 plus 90 cents per pupil. So the fee for the 2018-19 school year is $3,689.80. The board was presented with an action item on August 8th and approved the membership to Metro EXU. So just providing you a timeline here of where we're at. So this evening we're here to present additional governance questions for this special called meeting. As Member Mueller mentioned, the EXU is requesting a ratification of the Joint Powers Agreement of Sourcewell Technology, which is formerly known as TIES, and the option is to approve or disapprove. The due date is August 30th, so in just a couple of days. And this is agreement among TIES, Sourcewell, and Metro EXU. Authorization, as part of this ratification of the joint powers, there's also an authorization of the participation contribution agreement, and I think Superintendent Kelly can explain a little bit more about what that is. Second is to, looking forward at a September school board meeting, would be to approve a motion of withdrawal from participation in the services of Metro EXU. That would be effective June 30th, 2019.
So I'm just going to tag along to that. We thought we'd put the two governance questions up there. One is more immediate, and I'm going to reiterate and underscore and agree with something that Member Mueller said, and that the timeline on this was really fast. I did call the executive director, Julie Frame, today, and we had a conversation about that after I talked to our school district attorney. And she said, well, you can either approve or disapprove it. She said they're going to take a vote. The board would like to go in this direction, the executive board, but it's up to all of the people. And they're listed, the school districts that are involved. Some of them are not involved as TIES members at all, so I don't know what their frame of reference is going to be when they're approaching this vote, and then some are, so we really don't know. But at this particular time, when I was talking to Julie, she said, well, you can just send it in, you can decide what you want to do. And then I did say, you know, we just, on June 30th, did our last financial disentanglement with TIES, and I said the board was, and the administration breathed a sigh of relief. It's been a great deal of work, and I said it's nothing against TIES and it's nothing adversarial with Metro EXU again, but we're very reluctant to stick our toe back in the water of governance and management of the TIES organization when we've just gotten out of it and we can't afford financial surprises. And she said, well, their attorney had said, you know, there's really no financial obligations as a part of governance and no significant issue with indemnification, and that the EXU, who is having a hard time cash flowing, or would receive $100,000 a year for this. And so they felt it would breathe new life into the organization. And in addition to that, they're really not sure what Sourcewell is going to be up to and these are her words, I'm paraphrasing, in the future, because they don't have a market in the metro. So they thought it would be better to be on the board and be part of the team than to be taken over eventually once Sourcewell becomes a dominant force in the metro. So there's a 10-member board, and EXU has 2 members on the board, and then the other 8 belong to Sourcewell. So she thought that as having really less responsibility, but actually in talking it over with Joe, is Joe Langle, it's like you're in the minority no matter what you do, because there's going to be, it could possibly be 8-2 on the board. So, but they really do want to try it. And so I did talk to her about what our fee entailed, and Zena outlined that. And I had also read the bylaws, and Joe Langle read the bylaws as well. And in order to actually rescind our membership with EXU, it's a 6-month period. And so we'd have to tell them this, by December at the latest, that we want out in June. And by the end of June, if they proceed down this course. And Julie understood that entirely. And she said, actually, she says, well, we don't even really follow those bylaws. She said, sometimes, she said, if people want out, I have to tell you, she said, all transparency, we've let people out. And when they wanted out, and to which I said, well, we would follow the bylaws, and for obvious reasons, legally, you want to have a legal exit from an organization. But she said it was just fine, and we could participate this year. Talking to Joe Langle, we have, even if we pass a resolution like this in a timely way, you have until like June 29th to rescind, just like we did with WEMAP, or considered with ties to the last minute. But if we really want to exit from EXU, there's going to need to be a governance question for the board, probably in September, to talk about should we pull out entirely. So that's what's coming up in the future. And so for tonight, when we're looking at that, in your packet of materials, you can see all of the the joint powers agreement. You can see the partnership agreement saying, yes, we think it's great if we partner with them. And what Joe had recommended, and I'm just going to read it as a matter of record for you, in his opinion, in the end, what matters is that Metro EXU is becoming heavily involved with Sourcewell technology. They are getting paid to do this, and it appears to be a long-term arrangement. If the district wants to unentangle from ties permanently, then it would have to end its membership of Metro EXU. And that's from him. So that would mean a couple things. Tonight, we would probably have you consider a vote of disapproval of entering into that relationship in the first place. And then in September, have you consider a resolution saying, we're withdrawing at the end of the year, which could be rescinded. But those are really the big governance questions. And have I left anything out, Lorien, from your perspective?
No, I think when I first received this, I was surprised. I think really there's just, one meeting that I attend during the year as a representative. I was not able to go to that meeting, but that was several months ago. And so, but looking at this, getting this information and reading through it, as Superintendent Kelly said, I think it kind of hit me in the gut. If we just went through this, and now to come in and as we talked as a board of removing ourselves from ties and what that organization is going to, what they're becoming, there was a lot of times when the information wasn't forthcoming. We received some information, then we received different information. And then I received this, and it was cast your ballot, and you have 17 days to turn it back in. So obviously, I did not feel, as a single member of this board, that I had any authority to cast a ballot as our board, and so I wanted to bring it to you. But I will say, and I know if you read through these earlier, I've spent some time reading through it, and on the one hand, it says that we'll have no financial obligation and there's indemnification for Metro EXU. but you're still part of the governing body. You're still responsible for running the asset through the building operation. I mean, there's just, to me, on the one hand, they're saying you're not responsible as Metro XU, but then you're, for Columbia Heights, we're members of that, but yet you have this authority and the responsibility for some of the assets. And that, to me, it was concerning.
I mean, somebody's got to be responsible. So if it's not the members, then.
And who, and then who's Metro XU made up of, but the members. And
members,
so
yeah.
and again, it was the rush. I just felt like, there was a lot of things going through with ties, that things were happening, and I felt in a little bit of a hurry, or at least not with full disclosure. And then this just seemed to, with the turnaround, especially in August, to come mid-August, like I said, August 13th, to get this email and saying, we need your vote by August 30th, that was concerning to me.
Doesn't sit well. Thank you for.
I have just a couple questions about the services that we do receive from paraprofessionals testing. Are we still able to access that if we're not a member, just at maybe a little higher cost? Or how would that look?
The cost wouldn't change. We would still be able to access it.
Okay,
There are multiple testing centers in the state of Minnesota.
okay, I'm sorry. I thought
And
that's-
our people could, if they wanted to take that test, because they elect where they take that test. It's like your driving test. You can elect to take it where you can get in. And so it's up to them. We used to say, and you can do this at Metro XU, but there are other sites where they could do it too. They could still go to Metro XU and take the test.
So what would we really be missing out on that we would accept as a compromise if we left altogether?
Again, if I can make a comment, and we had talked at our last meeting when we approved the payment, we just did that, right? And so, looking at what we had in terms of, the professional development and the joint purchasing, which I think is truly a value, but there are other opportunities for us to do that elsewhere too.
I had that same question, or Superintendent Kelly and I, of course, had that same question. And so upon receiving this information, we've done some research on, okay, here are all the different programs that we utilize. How can we offset that or utilize something different? So Knowledge Bowl, for example, we have about 20 students who access that service. It's really run through cooperatives, and so we would need to do something different. So some other kind of quiz bowl, or as I mentioned before, we have more of a robust activities program at the high school through Encore. So it wouldn't be identical, it would be different, but there would still be options for those kids to access, academic type programs outside of the school day. Professional development, we talked about that and the different needs, and we've worked with the principals on what are some areas that they're interested in through the teaching and learning department. We're able to seek those out. Kathy mentioned the cooperative purchasing. Really, in our research in the district, we rely heavily on, is it Southwest Cooperative for many of our purchasing, and then we have accessed quite a bit of support through special education services, which, as Kathy mentioned, we would just transition that to 916. So really thinking through, Metro XU has delivered high quality, services to us. However, we could seek them, each one of those, elsewhere.
So there wouldn't be something that, other than
Knowledge Bowl.
that we just can't access at a reasonable rate from somewhere.
There is one, and that would be the annual class size study.
Thank you.
I'm not sure. We do work with Carrie, and so we'll have to see. They were thinking about reconfiguring that because not everybody participates in that annual class size study. So they were going to try to reimagine that study. And we have used that on a pretty routine basis every year. So we'd have to have a workaround for that. There's an associate kind of, or a non-member fee, I think, over there too, that we might be able to do that with. We would have it for one more year. We'd have to figure that out.
And I wanted to make that comment too. Right now, today, and the reason for our special called meeting is that we have to have our approve or disapprove vote in of their connection with ties, but we aren't looking at removing ourselves from Metro XU. It would be at the earliest at the end of the school year. So kind of giving us some time to really look at that further. I don't think that we want what we are saying is a problem for, the quick turnaround, but there's some time, at least till December, to make that decision, right?
Yes, I think what we were proposing to do is really hit this in September and bring you back what we've really found, and then, so that you're informed, that you're in the loop. And then we can watch this process if it's transparent, but at the latest, at the December meeting, you'd have to make that commitment and get it in, or we'd miss the deadline.
Because we don't know at this point what the vote will be. If, it might be that other members would disapprove as well. We don't know that at this point.
So at this point, the membership that was approved, the intention is if it hasn't been mailed already, the check will be mailed for the membership for this year?
Yes, because we owe that based on what the flat fee is and the 90 cents per student.
So we've got these services through
For
June
1 year.
30th anyway, all the things you're talking about. Will we have access to Knowledge Bowl this year and some of the other things? So there's time to look for others, so the classroom study and all those things. So really.
For this year, yeah.
Okay.
It's
So it
1 year.
really is just-
It's 1 year out.
The governance question we need to decide tonight is only
Number one.
number one. Okay.
Yes, but if we're not going to be, so I know that we're only looking at number one, but if we're going to end up deciding to stay, we need to have a voice in it. Not withdraw from voting. I mean,
We're not withdrawing from voting. This tonight is just whether or not we think they should go into a joint powers agreement with Sourcewell, correct?
The Lorien's vote needs to be
So all
cast
we're
based
saying
on our
tonight is
conversation.
we think they should join together or they shouldn't, and if we're opposed to being them, so it isn't anything against the organization we're paying the membership to, it's whether or not we would be, as a district, comfortable with them being
Okay.
together. So that's,
Yeah.
so to say, no, we don't want to, they still may pass it or whatever, and that's not gonna change our, whether it passes or not, at this point, doesn't change what voice we do or don't have, I don't think.
No, it doesn't. It's, they just want us to, they want to know if the board, the full board, either approves or disapproves of this action.
And I just worry about the many districts and the voting members that maybe don't have as much history and learning about ties as we do, and they might just look at this as a blanket. Sure, they're recommending it, let's
For
go.
a quick $100,000 a year,
Yeah,
right?
so
So if we disapprove it and it goes through,
We,
it just
then we
is what
just
it
make a
is, and then
decision.
by December, if we decide we want to withdraw, and even if we withdraw, make that decision, just like with ties, we had that opportunity up until the very end.
and it's the
To
same
rescind
thing,
that?
yes, and it's the same thing we did with WeMap, because we gave everybody really a lot of notice and then didn't rescind. So you have, once you give the notice, you have until the very last board meeting in June to decide and to see how this all plays out. And when we did it with WeMap, it turned out to be the right decision. When we did it with ties, it turned out to be the smartest decision for this district and for our students. And there were some people that said, gee, we wish we would have at least started the process. And so with this one, though, everyone's exactly right. It's just, do you as a board think it's a good idea for XU to become involved with Sourcewell and ties in a governance way? They're asking for approval or disapproval, and we have to have that in by the 30th.
Okay.
Lorien, thank you very much for bringing this to our attention. It took quite a bit to disentangle ourselves from ties, and I know that, that there were financial tales. I personally am very uncomfortable with the timing of this. It seems like a fairly big rush into it, and the other thing is even though they're saying that they're going to give a financial benefit of $100,000 a year, they haven't been real good about balancing their books. So I'm not entirely sure how accurate that's going to be. So I think that that we can come up with some really creative options for Knowledge Bowl and challenge our students. This is a good opportunity to see what we can come up with. So,
I think just remembering too, that if we disapprove, we'll figure out, I mean, it could be a vote that it doesn't happen, so we'll figure that out later, but I'm in agreement with what Member Palmer said. Just, I'm not comfortable with it, given the history of ties.
Zena, do you have anything else that you want to add? I mean, about this, or otherwise I'm just going to bring it forward as an action. Okay, the way that it's written here is that the board's being asked to disapprove the joint powers agreement. So I'll ask for a motion and a second to disapprove, and then we can just have any further discussion that we need to. So Laura?
Second.
So the motion by Laura, second by Molly, is to disapprove an XU joint powers agreement of participation contribution agreement with Sourcewell. Any additional questions, comments, discussion? I was just surprised that it, and nothing personal, but usually things like that, at a minimum, go to a board member that's a representative and the superintendent, and oftentimes even I'll see something come through, but for it to go just to, and not at least be notifying the superintendent, kind of made, that's what the, kind of, the red flag that we talked about is kind of what raised it for me, but, okay. Anybody else?
If you want to see the actual disapproval or approval, it's in there, what we'd be sending in after the vote tonight.
There's
And-
also, I'm sorry, Kathy.
No, I was just going to say that that's what we'd be sending in. So you know just exactly what it is. And the other, second thing I wanted to say is that EXU, for as long as we've been working with them, has been really an executive board-driven committee. I mean, if you've been a member at the board level, they meet once a year, and it's a general meeting, and it's not much of a meeting from the standpoint of, it's, do you know what I'm saying? You get the minutes, and I send them to you on what the executive board is up to when they meet, but it is more the executive board that drives the organization than the general. Would you say that's fair?
Really, our representatives as a representative, we don't even vote. So, you know, when we come to the meetings, we're observing the executive board. So it's not like we, even as a member representative, that we truly have a voice on the organization. Going to the annual meetings, it's really more of an informational, kind of what they've been doing throughout the year than any part of participation or the communications that I receive are just, it's information. It's not asking for participation or to be a part of the process.
Right. Anything else? Okay, hearing no further discussion, all those in favor of the disapproval of the joint powers agreement, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. All right, and that is all we got, so we will adjourn this meeting at 6:06.